In order for it to be successful, it should not be used as a bribe with students or as an IOUs. Be positive about it. If the students see that you're positive and like you want to do it, and you're eager to consistently give them these tickets, they're going to consistently want them. They're going to, they're going to keep acting in positive ways so that they can earn them. Again, be consistent. It is key in this entire process as well as in classroom management. And just make sure you don't miss anyone. So try picking 3 students each day that you want to focus on. It doesn't mean that you ignore the other students, but try to pick 3 students. I know a lot of times some teachers will put the 3 students on their calendar or each day, and they'll say, okay, I want to focus on X, Y, and Z, and then they still acknowledge everyone else, but their main focus is those 3 students, and that way you don't miss anyone throughout the month. And we're going to go to classroom management.
And just as a reminder for PBIS, each teacher will get a binder with all of the information in it, and this binder is so helpful. Christine did a great job creating these, but I just keep all my yellow tickets right in the binder, so I know where they all are for each student. And it lists all the major infractions, minor infractions, all the details you need to know. So this binder is very helpful.
Yeah, it's a lot of information, and we understand that. So I try to make sure that you guys have everything right at hand. And we're always open if you guys need anything or if you guys have any questions. So, and the teachers are great too. So.
All right. So for classroom management, a lot of this consists of things that you already know, you learned in school and everything, but whether or not we all implement it in our classrooms is a different story. So sometimes it's nice to just get a refresher, get some reminders. So obviously it's very important to set the tone right from the start on day 1 when the kids come in. Create rules as a class, have all of the students sign the rules as kind of a compact. Right from day 1, set high expectations for all students so that they're clear what is expected of them. Like Ms. Rivera said before, be consistent, follow through. If you tell a student that they owe 5 minutes for recess, be consistent and make sure that they owe that 5 minutes for recess, because the second you let down your guard, they know. Kids are very smart. They'll know that they can get away with other things as well. Build a positive rapport with each and every student in the classroom. Introduce hand signals. All of the teachers this year had a system of hand signals that we used. Bathroom was this, water was this, and tissue is this. So instead of a student, when you're in the middle of a classroom discussion, instead of having a student say, Ms. Capoletti, I have to use the bathroom, they just quietly go like this, and you can give them the nod and let them go to the bathroom. That was very helpful. And introduce transitions and practice. So for example, practice right on day 1, have the students line up in their appropriate line order and practice walking in the hallway. If there's talking, stop them, go back, do it again. If there's more talking, stop them, go back, do it again. It takes a lot of repetition and practice, but they will get it, and it's important right from day 1 to set that tone so that they understand what's expected of them.
Yeah, and a lot of the process can be tedious, but it's so important, especially in the beginning, that they know that you're serious about it. Once again, like Ms. Capoletti said, once they see a little slip of you being too nice or you not being consistent, where you give one student the 5 minutes, but another student does the same behavior, but they're usually really good, and you don't give them the 5 minutes, now you'll start seeing trickle effects in the entire classroom, and you want to try to avoid that as much as possible.
Here we go.
Oh, sorry, we went way too far. Let me go fix that.
All right. Some minor technical difficulty things.
It happens with smartboard sometimes.
All right.
Hopefully.
Oh, perfect. All right. So, a training that I went to, which I found to be extremely helpful, was a STEP training, and it stands for systematic training for effective parenting. And the book actually looks like this, and if any of you want to come see it, you're welcome to come into my classroom and borrow anything. But I found this training to be extremely helpful in dealing with misbehaviors. So I'm going to start with teacher expectations for classroom management. It's really important to identify what the goal of the misbehavior is. Every child acts out for a reason. They're not going to just do it for, for fun, but they act out for a reason. So identifying that goal of the misbehavior is very helpful in how you react. So for example, if you're feeling bothered by a behavior a child is doing, then, typically we remind, we nag, we scold, and the child usually, will stop temporarily. However, they'll continue the misbehavior maybe 5 minutes later. And the goal is attention seeking. Again, another goal of misbehavior is power. They get into power struggles with you, and you feel angry, threatened, and you usually will fight back, or you'll get into this verbalization of a power struggle, and the child will usually continue to misbehave or defy you. Again, revenge. Some children will act out in revenge, and you'll feel angry or sometimes extremely hurt if they say things that are very hurtful, and you're typically someone would try to get back at the child and punish them for that, and the child will misbehave even more. If you put them in a stop and think they'll continue that behavior and yell out and everything, they'll keep trying to get even. And another goal of misbehavior is a display of inadequacy. So a lot of times you'll feel hopeless and you'll feel like giving up, and you usually either give up or you agree that the child is helpful, and the child will not respond, they won't improve. So it's really important to identify first what the goal of the misbehavior is. Is it attention, is it for power, is it revenge, or is it a display of inadequacy? And based on that, you can react accordingly. Which the next slide.
And also, a lot of this is when they try to avoid assignments.
Yep,
we see a lot of these behaviors.
So dealing with misbehavior. So first, you should say, how do you feel when the misbehavior is occurring? What do you do? And how does the child respond to what you do? Just like what I was saying in the last chart. Here are the goals listed: attention, power, revenge, and display of inadequacy. An example of a misbehavior for attention: active would be interrupting, clowning around. A passive behavior would be forgetting, not doing an assignment, expecting to be waiting on. What you can do as a teacher is don't give attention on demand, so ignore when possible. Obviously, once the behavior starts getting extreme and interrupting others' learning, then you have to step in, but try to ignore those behaviors at first. Don't wait on the child, and give attention for good behavior at other times. So when the child stops doing that behavior, immediately give them positive reinforcement and, praise for that behavior. Ways to encourage positive goals: say thank you when the child helps, and notice when the child contributes. There's the goal of power, revenge, display of inadequacy, and here are the examples of misbehavior and what the teacher can do. You can take a look at this. The PowerPoint will be attached. So if you want to take a look at this, it really is very helpful, and it all kind of comes together and makes sense. So it's very helpful when you're dealing with the misbehavior.
And blazer tickets would also work great with this too, like when the child's switching their behaviors around, like, oh, thank you for listening, or thank you for following directions, and handing them a blazer ticket.
Exactly, and I always, if a child turns it around, I always give them that positive reinforcement. I'll say, I love how Molly turned her behavior around. Way to go, Molly, and give that positive reinforcement so she knows what she's doing. I just wanted to give you a little scenario, and this is a typical teacher scenario. If a child is making noises on the carpet, wiggling around on their carpet seat or tapping a pencil, I know we all get very annoyed. But how should you react? At first you should ignore until the behavior escalates and starts interrupting peers' learning. So for example, if a child's tapping, you should just ignore the behavior. Try it as much as you can to just continue teaching, just ignore that behavior, because obviously that's an attention-seeking behavior and the child's looking to get a reaction out of you. Sometimes, it's hard because the other kids will be like, John, stop tapping your pencil, John. And, I'll give coaching to those students, and I'll be like, please just ignore that behavior, we're not going to pay attention to it. Let's keep our eyes on the board, focus on the lesson. Once the behavior obviously starts really interrupting with others' learning, then you step in. And typically, I give two choices, which is something that I learned through the STEP program. You give 2 choices, so I would say if a child's wiggling around on the carpet, I would say, Molly, you can either sit quietly in your carpet seat or go back to your table seat. And hopefully that child will choose to sit in her carpet seat and follow directions. And when that child makes that choice, I would say, great job, Mom, I'm so proud of you for making the right choice. Sometimes you will get a child that will quietly go back to their table seat, and that's fine too. But giving 2 choices really gives ownership over their behavior, and it holds them accountable and responsible for their behavior and the choices that they're making. So I've found 2 choices is extremely helpful. If a child's not getting their work done during center time, sometimes I'll go over and say, either you can get this work done now, or you can get it done during recess. You make the choice. And hopefully that child will get it done now, or during centers, I'm sorry, so that they won't have to do it during recess or at home. And again, like I said, give attention for good behavior. As soon as the child is sitting quietly, as soon as that child turns it around and say, I love the way Alex is sitting so quietly crisscross on the carpet, and the kids love that. The rest of them, it's like domino effect. They'll all sit up, quietly crisscross. So that's extremely helpful, and it's very important, like Ms. Rivera said before, always give attention for positive behavior, for good behavior. All right, so teacher expectations as well. Give the child 2 choices. Like I said, the child takes ownership and responsibility for their behavior. Continually reinforce students who make appropriate choices, constantly reinforce that behavior. Inform students quickly of the desired behavior. Remember, raise your hand to speak, you could say, and then just quickly move on. You don't want to stay too long on the behavior. You want to keep moving on. So remind, reinforce, and redirect. Reinforce desired behavior at high rates continuously. Like I said, this is kind of a repeat, but it's very important, especially with those children who, misbehave on a daily basis. It's very important when they're doing the right thing, constantly be on them. Oh my goodness, I love how you're doing this. Look at how you're working quietly, constant. And it's essential to teach, model, practice, and reinforce behaviors and structures. Also, anticipate student behaviors before it occurs. You always want to set the students up for success and pre-teach the activity and behavior. Make sure you model what you're doing before you send them back to their seats. Because, you want the student to succeed. That's obviously our goal as a teacher, is to have all students succeed in the classroom. Here are more teacher expectations. And this is just on a general basis. Be coachable when others are suggesting ideas. As a staff, we all work really well together. Sometimes a teacher will come to me and give me coaching and say, Mad, maybe you could try doing this, or maybe try doing this. And it's very important that we're all open to those ideas, because we all can obviously learn from one another. Use a teaching voice, not an angry voice. Ooh, it's so important to, as angry as you get, sometimes you have to remember these are just kids and you have to just control it. I mean, kids do not react well when you're yelling. They will, I'm telling you that right now. As you probably know, the behavior will most likely escalate when you're getting angry and yelling at a child, whereas if you're talking to them in a teaching voice, they'll react in a much more positive way. Be aware of your 93% body language. Use close proximity with eyes and signals. So, they can tell when you're frustrated, and some students, unfortunately, will like when you're frustrated and they'll try to keep you going, getting frustrated. So it's important to be aware of your body, stay calm, stay collective. And a lot of times if a child's misbehaving on the carpet, I'll just quietly walk behind them. I'll continue to teach, but just quietly walk behind them and stand there for a little bit until they start making the right choice. Another thing I use a lot is hand signals. So if a child's chalking on the carpet, I'll just look over and, give them the quiet signal rather than calling them out and saying, Alex, why are you talking? I'll just give them the quiet signal or give them the teaching eyes. Avoid name calling, like I just said. It's, no kid likes to be called out in the middle of a lesson. Be aware of your own frustration level and know when to remove yourself from the situation. Sometimes when I am feeling frustrated, I will tell the kids,